Hey there.
Hi there. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So I'm expecting John on the call. I guess that's it.
Uh,
I don't know. If, hopefully Dania too. But I haven't heard anything from her this morning.
and I emailed Leslie a bunch of stuff because she had sent me through some information yesterday that I was just digesting. So I think that I just got back to her. Hey, Leslie.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Going on.
Thanks for sending that through. I appreciate. It looks really good. So I think that's a really good head start to see how
I think a lot of the overlap of skills. Like I was just kind of doing a little research. I put a couple calls in. I haven't gotten a call back from lacrosse people, but the crew guy, my contact there, was very great. He called me back and
nice.
And I think a lot of the general stuff you see on recruiting, like pages of a college, the university's recruiting page, a lot of it's the same stuff. So that, all that is like that first part, just a lot of overlap, and then it's very specific to sports, but it's not going to be that much. I mean, really, like it's not going to be.
Yeah.
Like even lacrosse. I mean, you know, my daughter plays lacrosse. Or what are they really going to ask for? But I'll see if I get a call back if there's anything that I missed. But
yeah, I think the hockey and the lacrosse are going to kind of be similar. I think it'll be goals, assists, blocks, you know, whatever's relevant to the position. And then I think that what I'm going to do is collaborate everything and send it to John and just let him tell me if we're getting too detailed to start. And we might just have to do a phase 1 and a phase 2. Like it might have to be like, this is the basic. And then this is the, you know, phase 2 might be like, here's what we can customize, or here's what each coach can customize. And we can kind of go from there. But I'll let him tell me if I'm getting too detailed.
yeah.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm just on the line with trying to book a flight to LA. The cheap tickets have been online with them for about 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to
That's
use
so annoying.
the credit.
Are they actually cheap these days?
I mean, I only use them because it's just easier for me to just see all the flights and pick what I want and take it from there. So I haven't really compared them to anybody else. I've always used cheap tickets.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Priceline. I've used Priceline except for maybe twice
Yeah.
in the past like 5 years.
Yeah, I do a lot of Expedia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're so much more useful than going through each airline and trying to figure out what's cheaper.
Oh, totally. We did, I organized like our entire 2-week honeymoon through Europe through Expedia. And I gotta say, they just make it so easy because they like keep an itinerary tab.
Yeah.
And they have this crazy thing where like, the more you start booking, you get access. So if like for something like a honeymoon where you're going for 2 weeks in a bunch of different cities, every time I booked a hotel, like the next time I went to book like the next city's hotel, it was like 50% off. Like
That's awesome.
by the end of it, we did our honeymoon like, and it was not really, we stayed in really nice places for so cheap.
Nice.
It was like, but it was a lot of coordination. Like it took a lot of,
Yeah.
it really had me dialed into my type A-ness. My husband was like, there's no way I could have done that. But
So I see you guys have been checking out Slack.
yeah, I was in Slack a little bit this morning. I felt so bad. Leslie wrote me a note like last week and I just totally missed it. So I apologize.
It's hard to keep track. Yeah, Leslie put some stuff up there. So.
All right, so let me give you here the options for.
Should we give John just another minute?
Yeah, I guess so. I'll text him and ask him if he's going to join us. If he's like me, he just got dug into something and hasn't looked at the clock.
No, I understand.
I do it all the time when I'm coding in particular. It's like that. Just absorbs you.
So Kelly, how's your little baby?
Oh my God, he's so cute. Hold on, he's right here.
So how old is he?
So he's 3.5 months.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so funny. You're reminding me that I have to call the pediatrician because his 1 month appointment and then his 2 month appointment were both like Thanksgiving and then Christmas. So they kept getting bumped. So like he really went in at like a month and a week and like 2 months and a week. And so, or like, so 2.5 months. So they tried to book his like 4 month appointment and it was like when he's going to be 6 months. And I was like, are you doing the math that I'm doing? And like, I don't know. I'm such a like, for me, when you're born on October 25th, like it's the 25th of every month. That's not how the doctors do it. They do it by like actually like physically what week he is.
Right,
I'm
right.
so not that mom that people are like, how old is he? And I'm like 15 weeks. Like I have no idea what week he is.
Yeah.
And all my other girlfriends that have babies, like I had one girlfriend had baby 2 weeks before me and one had one 2 weeks after. They're so on top of that. And like, I'm so not. I'm just bad
Well,
at
it's a weird time, but they probably whisk you in. Like newborn, you're like, I'm going in. You cut the line. They like whisk
Yeah,
you
they're
back.
like,
Great,
yeah, you're going in. So I have to call them back, but he's like 3.5 months and he's, you know what it is? It's just like, I hit a little bit of wall of just like, I'm just so tired. But I think part of it is,
does he go all night? Like how many hours does he go?
well, he's been sleeping great. He sleeps great. The problem is I feel like right when you finally figure it out, they change.
Right.
So like I kind of had his sleep pattern down and I'm telling you, changed like the next day. I was like, son of a, and I can't complain. He's sleeping like a champ. So like I'm getting good like chunks of time. But he started to go down earlier. And then I was getting myself nuts. I'm like, is he breathing? Is he breathing? Because I'm like, he's still asleep. Like, and these monitors these days are like so fancy, but it was just, I don't know. Like I said to my husband, like we went away for an Airbnb last week for a couple days. And it just, to be completely honest, wasn't restful because the monitor was weird on the Wi-Fi system and things weren't being picked up. And I just wasn't sleeping well because he had changed his pattern and we were in a new location. So like I had 2 nights last week where like I slept like an hour a night and I'm just like still catching up from it.
Mhm.
But no, he's like, my mother calls him fake baby. He's so good. He's fake baby. He sleeps. He's got such a good disposition. When I'm like futzing around and dressing him and changing him and bathing him, he's giggling. Like he's very, very. I mean, he's trying to fight the nap right now.
With the
But,
blessing.
what?
I said it sounds like he's mellow. Mellow babies are a blessing.
Oh yeah, he's very like. I mean, he's very
Cute.
chill. My mom said I was like this. My brother was apparently a total nightmare. But she said that this really reminds her a lot of, she's like, that's how they got lulled into having my brother like 18 months after me. Because she was like, oh, we were crushing this.
Yeah, and then if you have more than one, once they get past that age, the personality kind of kicks in. And I remember hearing it when I was not a mother, and then of course, I said it when I was a mother. Like it seems like such a dumb thing to say, but you're like, oh my God, they're so different. You're like, of course they're different. They're different people. They're like, no, but it's the same union, but they're so different. Like, and you'll say the same thing because you think it's a dumb thing to say, but you're just always amazed that they're so different.
Totally. I can totally see it. Hey, John.
Hey, good morning, all.
Morning.
Happy post Super Bowl hangover.
Hello there. Yes.
It was a good night.
We made so much excessive food.
Yeah, so I killed so much food, it's ridiculous.
I cooked like there was 15 people coming over. It was my husband and I. There were no people.
That's right, it's Stromboli, I forgot.
My son's in college, and he called me, and he's like this kind of savvy computer whiz, and I don't know, he goes on gambling sites or betting sites, and he just like, they make his college peers do this, whatever. And he says, if it's 31-30 and the Buccaneers win, he gets $1 million.
Oh my God.
If he got 31 right, and then if he was 30, he would have won $1 million. So he was all excited about that. I'm like, oh, it seems like a long shot. He's like, it's actually 1 in 2,000. He's like, it's better than lottery odds. I have a chance. I'm like, okay. So he got one of the scores right.
Yeah, it didn't happen, huh? Bummer. Yeah, it's actually a fun game, but I want to see the injury report from the other quarterback. He was getting hit a lot, like 10 times. He got pounded.
Yeah, that game, and I mean I love watching football and I love college football. It, as a hockey player who hit my concussion max, they get hit on every play.
Yeah, yeah, unbelievable. It was a tough night.
Yeah.
So, but fun. I thought it was a really fun game. Everything was like close except for the last maybe I don't know 20 minutes of game time. It seemed like almost like the Bucks started taking it a little bit easy on them. They were just like trying to prevent defense sort of and not really slam quite as hard as they were the first 3 quarters. So anyway, so I guess we should kick it off. We've had a lot of discussions, a lot of talk with the developers, and a lot of other information passing around about how we're going to run the site. And you guys have been fantastic with taking care of all this stuff. So hats off to you guys. I think John, maybe we'll take it from the developer side first. John, do you want to talk about it?
Oh, yeah, put me on the spot. What do we need to know? They're in the middle of development of the site and the app. They're looking for an early April release. I haven't questioned them on timing relative to getting approval through the app stores. So I'm not clear if that release date is when we'd actually be able to push the mobile app out, or if that's when it would be submitted to like Apple and Google for approval. My experience shows that sometimes you can have lengthy delays in those approval processes. For example, if Apple finds that there's some issue with the app or something you're doing that kind of they don't want you to do, you have to go back and rework it, resubmit it. And they have specific days of the week that you have to submit by for release on, like Tuesday of each week or something. But that's kind of the general timing. We're in the process of developing the software specs for the 2 trainer apps. They would be the next apps that we develop. They'll require some corresponding changes in the sites, in the website and the mobile app. Aside from that, I think the screens are developing well. They have the APIs available for me to test. I haven't really done a thorough test of their APIs. My assumption is as long as it's functioning the way the site needs, it's okay. There's very few things that I would really request for them to change once I start testing them. Not sure if there's much else to report on. I guess the test phase will probably begin towards the middle or end of March. And we'll probably solicit all of your help in testing the app. We will be developing a test plan and trying to rope in some outside help, contacts that we know to help us test, to make sure that it's functioning the way they expect, et cetera. So that's a brief update on where the development is.
That's great, John. I'm in the middle of putting together the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th pages of the personal profile, because that's something that's in my head after I put it down like 4 or 5 years ago when I was first coming up with this plan. But things changed. Since we're going to be using JavaScript and other current technologies, it's easier for us to do what we're going to do. So I'm in the middle of putting that together. I'm through the 2nd page. I'm about done with the sport preferences. A lot harder than I thought, because it's intricate when it comes down to the fitness disciplines like yoga and meditation and all those things. Is yoga, then you have so many different sub disciplines just in yoga. And so I'm trying to get it as accurate as possible. I sent out something to the yoga instructors or Yoga Teachers Association to see if they can give me better advice as to how to take care of that. So I'm working on that. And the 3rd page, of course, is the personal strength and speed, agility, that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to get handles on that from a couple of trainers that I'm talking to. But there's a like when you get to sports, is CrossFit a sport? Even, it's done in competition, but really it's done as a fitness discipline. So, where do we fit that in? There are sports, so there are some challenges there, but those are more logistic challenges than anything else. But I'm in the middle of doing that, and also I think we sort of skipped over the video component of this up until now. I think we have to recircle, Bill, you and I, and of course John, with the developers, and try to figure out what technology we want to use on the video system. Sorry?
I said, yeah, I agree. Good.
We also, there's a company that Wachili, something like that, that actually does have a video player. They use JW Player, but they have the surrounding technology where they can put all the videos from different sources into one directory and make it look sort of cohesive. That's what I've been wanting to do all along. So, even the concept that somebody's doing it already is a break for us, because we know that it can be done. And we have to have that further discussion with the developers, I think, before we even sign off on the SRSs, because that's going to be important going from the site to the apps and worrying about how the videos are going to show up there. I think it's more HTML5, if I'm not mistaken, John, when it comes down to what technology is used on phones. What's your knowledge on that?
Videos typically are all built into HTML now, instead of using plugins like,
Right.
Flash or anything like that. And the players that you use are really just wrappers that you put around the video. And there's tons of different wrappers. Every tech company has one. Some are more full featured than others. So it's really just a matter of finding the one that has all the, features that you in particular want. We're looking at, we're going to be having videos that are stored on our system. We're going to be trying to pull in videos from other sources such as YouTube, Vimeo, or other external websites even. So, pulling in those videos, it's easy to play a YouTube video and wrap it in the YouTube player. But we kind of want to, strip that stuff out where possible, and wrap it in our own player. So
Yep.
I don't know anything about that company that you mentioned, Greg. But I mean, that certainly sounds like it would achieve a lot of the goals that we have.
Yeah.
I agree too. And also, just that we have to make sure we could get a lot of pictures and videos off of phones as well, not just anywhere else. People, kids especially, going to start recording it. Parents are recording it while they're doing some kind of sports activity. They may not going to have a camera with them. They'll take it right off their phone. So we have to be able to take that material into our system as well, not just be able to play it back from what we have to a phone system. We have to make sure to take it in nicely as well too.
Okay, so it's called
Yeah, I think
Nunchee, Nunchee.
I mean, can I ask a question? So the goal is like, people are they're gonna want to link like their Huddle video. I mean, do you want Huddle on your site? I mean, what is the philosophy here? Like, do you want third-party stuff loaded up? Like YouTube is different, but Huddle is really competition, right?
They're
I think we're going to want third parties.
Yeah,
I think we're going to want third parties.
Yeah, definitely. And if we can get Huddle to work with us, that's all the better. Problem is that at a point not too long in the future, we're going to be competing with them.
Right.
So we have to keep that in mind. But I think at this point, it's really we can actually say we just want Huddle videos up there, and they do a lot of a lot of their stuff really isn't public. It's not made for public enjoyment. It's really because a team wants to have its games on it, and the players want to have their videos highlighted so they can send them to the coaches and that kind of stuff. So Huddle's really sort of a specific video system / recruiting system for the top 5 sports. It's not really made for what we're doing, but they've done a very good job of building technology around what their concept is. So they're, they will, as you said, they will be a competition. Right now, it's more a matter of having them having availability of their videos.
Try to get them as a partner and see,
Yeah, then what?
I mean,
You have
there's
a
a,
partner.
Before they
Then,
realize your competition, try and before they realize that your competition, let's just try and make them a partnership and then see if they bite.
there's a couple things to think of too that would need to be investigated is that their terms of use might prohibit you from, embedding their videos onto your site.
right.
That's number one. Number two is even if their terms and conditions don't prohibit that, you have to be aware that there's always a possibility that they could, if they see a lot of traffic, because if you're pulling a video from their site, you're using their bandwidth to play their video. And if they're not getting the eyeballs or the value out of that, really smart tech companies are going to say, oh, well, what servers are pulling these videos and where's that traffic being pulled from? And then they block our servers. And then the videos aren't going to work anymore. You're just not going to be able to see them or view them. So there's always those challenges. I don't know if Huddle would have controls for the users to say whether these would be available to be embedded elsewhere. So if I put something up on Huddle or any other site, and as a user, I want to put a link up to it or something on my Facebook page or my own website or what have you. Like, for example, YouTube allows the publisher of a video to say whether that video can be embedded outside of YouTube. So there are different challenges that you're going to have there. My final point is, since those videos would be member provided or uploaded by a member or a user of Huddle, why pull that video in from Huddle? That person's probably a UB Sports member also. So wouldn't they just upload a copy to our site?
Yeah, I was just thinking like they might try and do that. People might just try and, try and link the Huddle, they might, it's something that the person who's trying to be recruited or the athlete or the team might try to do, but I'm just wondering, how to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, these are just considerations that might happen. And Greg, you said that they're not really for public consumption. So if they're videos that you have to log into the site to be able to access and see, you're not going to be able to pull them in from our site.
I don't think it's actually, a lot of the stuff is public. Like you'll find the games right on Huddle. If you go to hudl.com, you'll find the games and stuff there. But when you get down to anything past the regular game footage, it's more sign in and do all that kind of stuff for members. So yeah, well, I'll do some research on Huddle. I'll give them a call because I met with one of them as my role as a dad a year or so ago, one of the salespeople. So I'll try to reach out to him and see if he can give me a handle on what they do on that front. But I also started a portal for my local squash club. They have probably about 80 members who play squash, including youth and adults. And they just started a adult box league, and the youth have both, a lot of kids are just playing, and they also have a youth clinics. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to use that as a test board. But I had I'm trying to get the head of that system to join, and he's getting this 500 message. I don't know what that means, John, when it says 500 error. But he got to the point where he was signing up and he got a 500 error and he never got the email saying, sign up, press here to confirm your email.
Yeah, I did a little testing this morning. It's not a database issue because you can log in. There's content being retrieved from the database. So that's all working. I rebooted the server at your request. That did not resolve the problem. I didn't expect it to. The 500 error is an application error. It's a programming error of some sort. So given that there hasn't been really any changes to the site, to the code in, however long, it's hard to say what exactly is going on. Prior to jumping on this call, I started to look through some of the server logs to see if I can get a handle on what the error is. But it has something to do with the user module. So it's trying to create the user, do something, and it's just failing. So I don't know if it's something I'm going to be able to track down or what, but I can continue after this call and spend a little more time to see if I can find what it is.
I think we have no choice. If we're going to be able to test this thing in the first place and keep building and bringing people in, we have to be able to get people to join. So if will you need more help on that? Can we ask the guys at iLeaf to look at it?
I mean, we could. I would imagine that's outside the scope of development, so I don't know what kind of arrangement you could get from them to provide support for the existing app.
We can probably ask Ajish. I'm sure he's going to be amenable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the cost is or what the arrangement would be, but we could discuss that with them, certainly.
Yeah, I think our costs are $18 an hour or something like that. So if they get one of their guys to look at it for a couple hours, it's not going to kill us.
Yeah,
Sure.
their support cost may be quite different. And
Yeah, of course.
it may not necessarily be an easy fix for them. I mean, I don't know what their experience is with Ruby on Rails. I think they have some Ruby experience, but that could be an issue,
Right.
It's hard to say without having any indication yet as to what the error is. I mean, to fix it could require code changes, and who knows what the extent of those changes would be. So, I mean, it's a big question mark. It could be something as little as 30 minutes of time. It could be something as long as a couple weeks worth of work, depending on what kind of discovery has to happen.
Will the server guys have a better idea of what they have to reboot if it is a rebooting issue, or what's not connecting and what is connecting? Or is that a call that we should make? We have a couple hours support a month and we're not taking advantage of that. It might be worthwhile to give them.
Well, I don't know. It's specifically an application error. So I would doubt that they're going to jump into the code and try to identify what the problem is. I mean, they could kind of do what I'm doing and go through logs and say, okay, here's the error messages you're getting. But then it would be up to us to track that down within our applications.
So it doesn't say what lines of code are screwing it up. It just says app error.
Well, it could in the logs, and that's why finding what the errors are. It depends on the level of logging too. So.
All right, can you give that some look today and see if you can find that in the logs? Because that obviously is very critical.
Yeah, I can keep looking at that a little bit after this call.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, that's
definitely warrants some.
We can discuss it with Ajish and their development team and see if they want to provide support. And I'd leave the negotiations of that arrangement to you. But yeah, we could pursue them and say this is what we found in our logs. We have no idea, what's causing it or how to resolve it.
I'm sure the first part is going to be pinpointing the lines and stuff.
Yeah, one of the things, Greg, that you mentioned there is, the need to have people signing up and stuff. And there's something that I don't think that we've addressed yet in the process of releasing the new site and stuff like that. But we're going to be, deploying a new site, new apps, new database. The database model itself, which basically means in layman's terms, how the individual pieces of data are stored in the database. If you think of it as a spreadsheet, is it multiple tabs in a spreadsheet? Is it just one tab and your columns and rows, et cetera? So one of the things is that we have an existing database full of data now for the current site. most significantly is our users. Okay. Now, a lot of the users in there are test users, users who haven't used the site, et cetera. Some are active users that use it all the time. The real question is there has to be some conversion effort to convert and migrate all of the data, users, content, everything else from the existing system to the new system. So that effort is not part of the spec. So we do need to address that process and come up with a plan to migrate that data from the old database to the new database.
I'm not sure it's not in the specs, John. I went through this with Ajish pretty definitively.
We could regroup it. We can regroup and kind of look at that. But even if
Make
it
that a
isn't,
Wednesday talk.
even if it is in the spec, you know, that process has yet to be defined.
Right.
So I don't know if that's in a future step, like in the next week, 2 weeks, et cetera. You know, from my experience, I would say if we're looking at a mid to late March timeframe to test, you know, we're going to want to get your ID, my ID, perhaps into the new system. So we should start having that process defined to see if and what they're doing for that. We then have some logical issues on top of just the technical migration and conversion of data. You know, the content that's stored, videos, blogs, that kind of stuff has to be migrated. The logical issues are that the layouts are going to change. So we have to make sure that for the content that's done as well. As for the users, the logical issues that we have is for the new site, the sign up process for a user, you provide us your email address and a password. The system sends you an email, you click a link to verify your email, and you become a verified member. And you have to do that before you can log in and use the site. So our existing member base, are we just going to assume that they're all verified users when we migrate them, as if they had done that validation step for their email? Or are we going to send an email to all of our existing users that says, you know, UB Sports is going through an upgrade to make the site bigger, better. We've changed our security parameters, et cetera. To continue using UB Sports, you need to verify your email address. Here's the link. And then you could have whatever other language and instructions you need around it. That kind of effort certainly takes a little bit of work to do that. It's a little bit inconvenient to force the users to have to continue using it. But it also has a side benefit of cleaning out your database of 8 years ago or 5 years ago that have never used the site and will never come back.
Well, everybody is always changing terms and conditions. I think it's easy enough to say our terms and conditions have changed. Please check into your site and read the term, or have a click here to get into your page and redo your terms and conditions. We can't let you into the site until you've re-verified.
Yeah. So I mean, whatever process, but we need to kind of define what we want to do with the existing users.
Kind of a good excuse to communicate the new site.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity. I think we should utilize it. And I think that, John, to your point, if we have some people drop off because quite frankly, they're just not interested anymore, I'd rather have a tighter group of users that are engaged. So I know you always run the risk of having some folks drop off, but I feel like I think it's an awesome opportunity to communicate to people, and it kind of hones in our group. And I think we can even have some messaging in there, like share it with your friends or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely marketing efforts around it, you know, from the technical side. It'll clean up the database. It'll make sure that users who are actually using the site or want to use it will go through that effort and become verified. And then you don't have like these legacy users that you don't even know if they're using the site or not, and you're it would make the migration easier. I don't know how many users are in our database now, but let's say there's 1 million users.
I wish.
If you only have 30% of them going through the site.
No, we have
and using it.
15,000, roughly speaking, 15 to 16,000 users right now. And of those, probably active under 1,000. There are a lot of them are test things and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I know when we were engaging different vendors for application development, each of the vendors would have multiple people signing up to use it. They're never going to come back to use the site again. So anyway, it's a process that we're going to need to go through and think through. There is an opportunity to market the upcoming new site, an opportunity for them to accept new terms and conditions and requirements for the site. They'll verify their email address, et cetera. And it'll clean up all the riffraff that's out there that we really don't need to maintain.
Yeah, I'd rather have a much more clear view of how many users we have than have, John, to your point, like if there was like a bunch of dummy email addresses that were created to test things out, like let's get rid of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree too.
Let's also, there's someplace, John, there's a dashboard for members. And I think it'd be important to try to find that dashboard. I've tried members, users, /members, /users, /blah, blah, blah. And I haven't been able to figure it out how we find that list. But that would be good to be able to see, because that'll give us a little bit of a handle as to, what data we are holding and, who is actually using it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other things. I mean, you might have had somebody who was using it 5 years ago, and they might have written a few blogs, posted some videos, and, if you kind of nix their account because they never come back to verify, their content will disappear as well.
Yeah, so we don't really want that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be able to keep someone's content if they're no longer a user. So, I don't know how you would necessarily address that.
I don't know, 5-year-old content, like, are we really stressed out about keeping that?
Yeah.
Like, I'd say beat it.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's that person's content, I mean, unless they associated it with a particular group or something, it wouldn't really be visible to anybody else.
Yeah, it's
Or photos or videos or something that they loaded. So it's going to be, either someone who worked for us in the past and loaded content, or someone who came onto the site and started doing blogs and that kind of stuff, but then died or something and went to another site and doesn't really care or something. So, we might lose, I would think we want to keep the content, but they just can't use the site until, they're a dormant member until they sign in. I think that they can be marked as dormant and or whatever however you want to call it, and just have the content sit there. It's not it's minuscule compared to the big picture. We only have, again, 16,000 members. When we're talking about 1 million members in the next couple of years, that's a drop in the bucket, but it allows us to keep the content in there at least until the curator comes in and says that this is stupid content. But I think it's just going to get pushed down to the back, into the archives, and no one's really going to care about it over time. So I'm reticent to get rid of the content. I'm much more apt to allow it to become archival because this stuff's overwritten and newer stuff has come on board. We're going to have stuff for bobsledding and other sports where we don't have the bobsledder on anymore. So I don't want to lose that information. Olympic bobsledder was on there. They wrote loaded content. I don't want to lose that because they aren't longer involved in bobsledding in general or the site in particular. So I think we have to be a little more.
I mean, if
consistent.
If their account doesn't exist, I mean, depending on the relationships that are in the database, you may not be able to have content without a valid user,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, there's some questions about it, and it's just something that we need to think of as we go through that whole process.
Is the content attached to the person's email? I thought that once the content gets into UB Sports, it's part of our content and they're part of our group. Isn't it separate once it gets into UB Sports?
Actually, unless they ask us, the TNC says unless they ask us to remove it, it remains our content to use.
Right. So do we care about the content? Then we have it.
Well, there may be technical requirements in the way the database is set up that correlates it to a user. I mean,
So marking them as a
I would
user but
imagine-
dormant isn't going to hurt us, right?
well, that lends itself to what do we do with migrating users from the existing database to the new one? You know, if you want to maintain some of that content, you may need to migrate these users who never become verified.
Right.
But ultimately, those email addresses, like when someone signs up, if they don't verify their email address, we're going to be purging their email address from the database. We're not going to maintain that if they never verify their email address and use the site. So, you know, maybe there's something we need to do with legacy users that's a little bit different in order to maintain that content.
Right.
Well, I kind of disagree a little bit with John, only because I think if the person is tying their email address and them to the material they gave us, they're trying to force a proprietorship that they have. They don't want to be upgraded to a new system. Take their stuff and go away. There's a lot of people out there that can come on this thing that know there's stuff going on. Having somebody do that kind of it could cause problems later on as well.
And do we want outdated content too? I mean,
Correct.
is that
Yeah.
really gonna do anything for our new users if their stuff is completely outdated? So
That's the worst thing about being a content company is that, like, if you're a Sports Illustrated or someone like that, and Bleacher Report, those guys, they have to have current content because the old stuff becomes worthless, you know? And yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we didn't become a content company, and why we need people constantly updating. That's actually the exciting part of what we're doing, is that we're building a current live site that will be updated for a lot of reasons by different people, organizations too. So yeah, it's true. It's going to the stuff on there now is anything over a year old is really going to be, again, archival in that people are wondering about the history of something and they travel back in time by going older into the database, into the content. So yeah, in one way it's not valuable, but in another way it's valid still. It's still something that they wrote. And if it doesn't cost us, if we're doing everything by pressing a button as opposed to manually, having one other user's content on the site that actually gives bobsledding something there can't hurt until the next bobsledder comes along and goes like, this is stupid content and wants to erase it. But you know, it's sort of like there are tons of sites that say, oh, we have 2 million users when really they only have 100 active users, but they have like active.com is a great example. Active.com has millions of users that have run a marathon, but they haven't run a marathon in 10 years, but they're still in there as marathoners, and they consider those users. So I think it's important for us to just have it there if it doesn't cost us anything, relatively speaking. If it's a press of a button and it's moved over, I'd rather have it there to fill the space until somebody comes in who's the next bobsledder who can update and have more current content. So that's my vote anyway. So I'll leave that to John and the developers to decide how to do that. All right, good discussion. So I think that let's on Wednesday we have a couple of agenda items already for the developers. One will be talking about how we move the databases over. Another thing, John, do we know where the different data is being held? My understanding is that AWS, the old AWS account only has a MySQL database for photos. All the other content's being held on the servers up in Albany. Is that your understanding too?
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
All right.
I mean, I haven't been able to really figure that out, and certainly I haven't been able to ask anybody how that was all set up. That's why I wanted access to the old AWS account so that I can kind of see what's even there.
So the only thing that I know is being held there is photos. So if we can get into the site and get the whatever credentials the site has itself to get into the database, would that give us a backdoor sort of into the database to try to find out what's actually in there? Because the AWS is being
Yeah, I'm not so sure that there's a separate MySQL database there. I would think that our existing database may point to photos that are stored on AWS.
It could be. It could be.
Or, point to things that are there. I would be hard pressed to say that you would set up a second database so that your website is communicating to two different databases based on whether it's looking for a photo or other content.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be hard to coordinate two distinct databases. So it may just be that AWS is like a content repository, and it may not even be that there's any servers running in AWS. It might just be for content, like photos, videos, pictures.
I think our cost is something like
anything
31
like that.
cents every 6 months.
That's why it's important for us to get access to that AWS. If you can get me those credentials so I can get into that system.
He won't let us in. We have to get a court order in order to get us into that, because when we gave up Izoka, we gave up the opportunity to have the email jeff@izoka.com. Jeff was the old owner of Izoka, which is originally what UB Sports was. When we bought Izoka, we got all that information, and we were still using Jeff@Izoka as the email address as part of the credentials. So it's Jeff@Izoka and then password. We can't even reset the password.
There's a couple things that we can do. One is I kind of question that whole scenario, but with that said, we could go out and buy that domain again. Go out,
buy
izoka.com.
Yeah, it's $5,000
to buy it. I find that hard to believe, but
No.
you buy the domain, and then you set up that email.
Yeah.
So that you can kind of go through that whole process again. If we don't have access to that AWS system, one, we're not going to be able to access and retrieve any of our possessions that are there. Any assets that we have, whether it's data, photos, whatever's up there. So, even if it costs $5,000 to get that domain, or I would presume it would cost you some sort of money for legal representation to get a court order, whatever. The question is, what's that value for that, whatever stuff is up there?
Yeah, it's owned by hugedomains.com, $4,995. But I'm just asking price.
Well, they're
$500.
Yeah, I mean, if you offer them $1,000 for it, maybe they'll sell it to you or something.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? They're just like a squatter.
I have a quick question. So you're transferring this over to ubsports.com. Have you thought about just buying the domain UB Sports? Like, what about IO? What do you guys think, technology people, about IO as a domain name? I'm just curious what your thoughts are about that. That's like the hot new domain name, right? .io.
IO, like the letter I and the letter O.
Kind of like ubsports.com. A lot of these companies do like ubsports.io.
I think the problem with that is people wouldn't know who it is
And I'm just saying,
Uh,
it's a hot new domain name, all these new companies,
Yeah.
that's like the way to do it. And it might be a cheap way to get that. I don't know if you, I don't know anything about it. I just know that that's a hot new way people are going.
Well,
yeah,
currently,
I did a lot of case studies with that.
yeah, we own all ubsports.com, .net, and .us. So we're ready on the main three.
I'd get IO. If you get it cheap, I'd just grab that.
I'm sure it can. It's
I
probably
mean, there's a whole bunch that you could get, .tv, et cetera. But one of the
IO,
things,
IO is like the cutting edge new thing. I
yeah,
think.
but one of the things is if you tell someone, well, go to the UB Sports website,
they go down.
99% of the people are going to go to .com. They're going to assume that.
Right.
And if you have something, so, maybe from a marketing perspective, you can put the .io, like if you have a billboard ad or something and it says ubsports.io.
Yeah.
Most people are going to type ubsports.com anyway.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Although there's value in having those, the top level domains, .com, .net, .io. And there's a whole bunch of different country codes that you can use for various, the .tv domain is, I forget what the country is, but there's some country where TV is that country's domain.
Pennsylvania?
I forget offhand what the country is.
Well, yeah, they do.
But my question is like, it's worthwhile to get that, right? I mean, and maybe you're leaning towards .com, obviously for continuity, but I'm just saying I know that's a new kind of hot, a lot of new companies that are coming out that are technology oriented, and I've been seeing companies that are selling and flipping and being bought up by bigger companies. They use IO, and I didn't know about it until recently, but that's just a trend that I've heard about, but I don't know much about it.
That's you're saying to get it to have it so no one else can get it, or you're saying to have it to utilize that?
I mean, it's not my choice to make. I'm just saying I know it's a hot domain. Like I know that new companies that are coming out are going under IO. That's like, I don't know if it's cooler or hipper or new, or maybe it's trending that way. I don't even know enough about it, but I know a lot. I've seen companies that are coming out and they just do like, sports.io. Those things are going. They're grabbing them. It's like a new kind of domain. It's not a shift, but I see that some companies that are new technology companies use IO. I don't know enough about it to know whether you should or shouldn't, but I know that it's out there. I would grab it, and then, maybe you don't use it, maybe you do, but I just know that I don't know if it's a trend. I just know that those are popular, more than like .net, I think is kind of back burner. But I think IO is like the new frontier. Maybe.
I mean, there's a top level domain for sports, so you could get ubsports.sport
or ub.sports.
I think IO is cooler. I think IO is hipper, cooler. I don't know, but I just know I've seen it and I've heard about it, but I don't know enough really to have a good conversation about it. But if you can grab it, grab it for nothing.
Greg, there isn't sports, so you can't do ub.sports.
I'm checking that.
Plural.
Yeah.
But there is.
Like, I mean, even like sports.io. Like I bet that's already taken. Like sports.io. I'm sure that's taken.
Available for $60 a year. It's
sports.io.
ubsports.io.
Yeah, but I bet someone's already taken sports.io. All the big domain names, I did a search. Like all those popular things .io, they're already being snatched up. So people just do stuff to do stuff, but you don't know if that means anything or that's like the next big wave. I'm not a technology person. I don't even know. I just know that I've heard it, I've seen it, and I don't know what it means.
I think it's a good idea to get it so that no one else can grab it and try to play off a piggyback off of us. Other than that, I don't know if it's really consumers themselves and people in general don't know that at all. So I don't know if that's who we're trying to get into here to come onto our site, right?
I mean, you could, not that you would, but you could even rebrand it. You're changing anyway. You could rebrand it and it could become something.io. It could be, I'm sure sports.io is taken. You don't want to change your name even. I'm just saying that just see what's out there and see if you can get it or get something that, makes sense.
I mean, Kelly might have more input on this, but I don't think the .io or the .whatever is really part of the brand. The brand is UB Sports.
I agree with that. And I'd have to do some research. I'm not really a techie person.
Getting a domain like sports.io might lend itself to some marketing materials. Targeted messaging to certain groups of people might make it a little more generic or something that, they don't see the UB name. So there might be some value in that, but that's not really the brand. Other top level domains that you could consider using, there's a .team and there's .training,
Hmm.
Both of which could somehow apply to a portion of our business model. Whether you get them or not, the costs are relatively trivial in the grand scheme of things to maintain those domains. But in reality, I don't know that they enhance your messaging by using like ubsports.io, ubsports.team, ubsports.train. I don't think any of that enhances your messaging. But they are out there. So there are hundreds of these, what are called top level domains, which are your .com, .net, et cetera.
Yeah.
So it
Buy
can be done.
sports site
if
for
you get this.
7,000. There's so many things to do with sports but UB is our trade name. And we're gonna have UB on our hats and shirts and stuff. It's, take that away, sort of takes away.
No, I'm not suggesting.
Something that
I'm saying
might-
like it's just the IO thing. Maybe just grab it. just to grab it. I'm sure it's like nothing. Probably like $30 just to grab that. I don't know.
$60.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah,
The more
I
you
would
take the
think-
thing away, more people get a chance to use it. That helps a lot. So
I would
we
think
have
that
it.
one of the more significant domains that you might want to get is, our store is called totalequips.com or whatever. There's a .store top level domain. You could get ubsports.store for your store.
I think we want to keep, I'd like to keep, and again, I don't have a ton of opinions when it comes to this stuff, but I know that most of the store sites for the leagues and for teams, it's shopnhl.com. It's shopmlb.com. It should be something we should probably snag up, shopubsports.com.
We actually get ubsports.shop.
Well, as long as
Yeah,
long as
that's something that is that was always the domain. So just throwing that out there, that whoever's going to be, I'm assuming it's not to pile stuff on you, John, but I'm assuming when it comes to grabbing all this stuff and talking high level, just throwing that out there that we might want to lock up the shop stuff.
Well, as long as you own ubsports.com, you own anything that you want that's something.ubsports.com.
Okay, cool.
That becomes just how we configure our servers and stuff.
Got
The domain names themselves that you use for various things, and you could have 100 different URLs or domain names that all come to the same site.
Right.
You will have one default URL. So even if you were to use ubsports.io to access the site, you'll probably still end up on ubsports.com. And you need to define a default URL or domain name so that your analytics are all consolidated under the same thing.
Yep.
If someone accesses your website, ubsports.com, and does stuff, and then someone else accesses ubsports.io, those analytics are separate because it appears to be two totally distinct properties. So you can't aggregate the metrics that you have for tracking and what people are doing. So you should have a default URL that you come in on. Otherwise, your tracking becomes very complex and cumbersome.
This is a really good transition. I just wanted to, because I'm afraid the little man may melt down soon, so I want to make sure I throw this out to the team. Greg and I talking about analytics had a really good call with Salesforce last week. So just wanted to update you guys that Salesforce is obviously like top tier tracking and analytics. They're expensive. So I think that it's something that down the line we'll probably invest in. I think that it's probably cost prohibitive for us to jump in with them right away. And I don't know if we'd get enough out of it to make it worth our while, but I think it's just something that, just so the team knows, it's certainly something that Greg and I are trying to set up tracking and analytics so that we have it from the start so that we can be making really informed marketing decisions based on our users. So just wanted to let you guys know that we did have that call, and we'll keep you posted on what we end up doing.
Right. That's
So
the HubSpot has a lot of that.
to wrap up,
Yeah, John.
to wrap up on the domain, the use of various domain names, regardless of what they are, really is more of a marketing decision than a technical decision. So if we feel that the use of .io or .team or .tv or whatever you might want to use, those decisions should all be well-founded on marketing objectives, whatever they may be. There is no technical challenge to implementing them, to purchasing them, unless somebody else owns it, of course, already. So whatever decisions are made should come out of that realm. To be able to get those domains and implement them is, really a trivial exercise at that point.
I kind of agree with Leslie was saying, though. I don't think you need to implement them. You need to purchase them so we become the owner of them so no one else can use them. Even if they use it, change the word, make it misinterpret what we're doing. People who go to those sites are going to go to that site, not us. We don't have to utilize them.
Yeah.
We have to own them.
Yeah. If you go
We
to
own we own the domain. We could just put it in a drawer to keep
Yeah,
away.
I mean, once you own it, you may as well have it point to your site.
right.
Yeah, I think my point was like, I'm like Kelly, I'm not technical at all, but I have this, computer science, son. I was talking about stuff, and I feel like millennials. I mean, this is like a hypothetical, I don't even know, but like, let's say the analogy of Facebook, like people on Facebook are over what, 35, 40. I mean, that's like the Facebook crowd. And then the younger millennials are not like into Facebook. Maybe, I don't know. I'm guessing that maybe IO is a new thing. Maybe IO is a new thing that people are like savvy that they draw into that more than .com. Maybe .com is, I don't know if it's phasing out, or maybe it's just hip and looks new and it's fresher, or maybe you attract younger people. I have no idea. I don't know enough about it, but I'm just saying if that's like the new, cool thing, does that mean that the younger generation goes to those sites? Or I don't even know if it matters. It is a marketing thing. That was my point, that like maybe it's good to grab it, and then decide what to do with it later. But maybe that's, and I don't think it's like other things are not that big. It's either probably .net, but that's kind of back burner. I'd say .io seems like the new thing. But maybe we could research that and see if that's true, and it's worth grabbing, just to grab.
Well, IO has a
I
term
mean, I'm not even.
meaning in technology. IO is input output. So usually it's
Right.
talking about a database or information coming in and then information coming out. So if you see a database company with IO, that makes sense. There's no rationale to have ubsports.io. So yeah, the kids might be at it, but the reason why they're at it is because they're a database looking at databases. So I don't know, John. Isn't that your thought about that?
I don't know.
About what?
About IO being relevant, input, output, and database.
Well, I think that's why it's popular with tech and gaming companies.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what IO stands for. But technically, the IO domain is really the country code for, I just looked it up, for the British Indian Ocean Territory, whatever that is. But that's what it's for. It's just like .ca is Canada.
Yeah, we used it all the time when I was at the NHL. Half the teams are on .ca.
Yeah, so that .io is technically for that country, but it does appear to be popular in tech and gaming companies, especially startups. Why? Who knows?
One thing I
But
did.
that's what's driven the price up.
Yeah. One thing I did start doing is buying UB United. I'm planning on using that as our .org, our philanthropic organization. I think UB United has a good ring to it, and I want to keep that UB as the symbol of UB Sports.
I love it. That sounds great.
So let's we have UB, I think 3 UBs already. So UB Uniteds. So we're going well there. All right. So this is a great discussion, guys. What else do we have to cover? Other parts of.
You know, you could,
Right.
there is a, I just checked it out, but there is a .ub country code, which is the United
Uzbekistan?
Kingdom of Bretherland. So you get stuff .ub if you wanted to.
Let's not overcomplicate this.
Wow, that's cool.
Is there any update on any investor stuff we should know about?
We have a new investment banker that's supposed to be starting this week. So hopefully they'll be able to find somebody. We have two smaller investors I'm working on right now. And we have the old investment banker still working there, trying to work their charms. So that's about all we have there. We still are obviously looking, we only have a small portion of the seed round taken. So we're, we are looking for more funds. That's always critical. I mean, as a startup through the point that we're totally self-sustaining, we're looking for money. Just put that in your hamper. Whenever someone says, hey, I got this $100,000 I just got from a settlement or this way, whatever, think UB Sports, because, it is a great opportunity. We're going to make this thing the Facebook / Twitter / Instagram for sports. So if you keep that in mind, someone comes along and is interested, I think we have a great opportunity here. So keep that in your back of your pocket. So that's where it is right now. I'll have hopefully some more information on the two smaller investors later on this week, and I'll keep you informed as that progresses. Obviously, I have one within days, and the other one's probably with a couple of weeks. So we're getting there. So that's what I have on that front. What about the finding out information on stats for the sports? How are we doing on that?
Leslie sent me her sports that she was responsible for. I have outreach to my guys and expect to get it back by the end of the week. And then once I have Dania's, I'm going to compile all of them and send them to John. And John can tell me if I have overcomplicated this. So basically, I'm going to try and streamline them. Leslie's is a great start. So thank you so much for all the effort you put in on that. And then once I get all of ours, I'm going to try and consolidate it and make it look clean. And I'll work with John to make sure that we're presenting it to the developers in a way that makes sense. So we're chipping away. I expect to be pretty done by the end of the week.
Okay.
My football coach is, football coach said height, weight, 40-yard dash, time, bench, squat, and cleans. He said for the individual positions, however, they require specific stats. So he's compiling for all the individual positions in football what stats that they require.
Yeah, I think that's gonna.
Yeah, they use it's a questionnaire, online questionnaire pretty much for all, and you just put the sport that you want your questionnaire to be about, and then you fill in all the information that way. So that link that he sent me is pretty much what we're trying to do.
Oh, can you flip that to me?
Yeah, it's sport specific, but all sports can use that link or that company to download or to generate their recruits information. So it's pretty much similar to what we're trying to do.
I thought
that was interesting how they don't have, like when I coach, we had our questionnaire up on our website.
Right.
Kids would go to our website to download the questionnaire, but this is a company that all sports can go to all recruits can go to fill out questionnaires, and then the teams, specific teams and sports teams download the questionnaires based on that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I had to sign in and all that stuff, so I didn't get really too in depth with it, but he's sending me that. And my volleyball coach, I'm waiting for his information.
I'd love to take a look at that site, because I think we can take a look at what they're doing well and what maybe we can improve upon. It'd be nice to take a look at, what somebody's already doing. Because everything has to be position specific. I mean, I think that you made the point last week a couple of times that obviously based on what stats you put in, like your position is probably going to become clear to the recruiter. But I think if we need to have specific things, I mean, like baseball, for instance, like a fielder versus a pitcher, it's just two totally different set of stats. So Greg, long story short, we're working through it, and I think we're making really good progress.
Excellent. That's superb. Okay, that's great. All right, so what do we left to talk about? I think we might be done.
I'm good on my end.
I would just follow up and say, to follow up with Kelly, that maybe the key is to first, if we can't get every sport and it's all a lot of, detail, maybe it's too much for the first round, just make sure you get that first profile. Like I just did that write-up, not sports specific, but a general thing of things I see on different recruiting apps and things that I would, know what you're looking for from a recruiter. And I made a little bullet list of everything, and I like little things like top, 5 colleges of interest, 3 words to describe yourself, upload your photo, upload your this, that, and everything else in between. And then your video for yourself. Like if you get that right, that's really 80% of it, right? And then the rest is specific skill stats for, specific to the sport. So maybe get that right the first round, and then you can fill in a lot of the details of certain sports you don't have. Because even if you just get that, like in the first round of doing this, I mean, you have like the jersey number, you have all the details you want, the biographical stuff, and then you can put a video in. I mean, it's not the most, detailed you can get, but it's the
Yeah, I think the concept of just doing a basic one and then having like the second tab where
Yeah.
it's like, next, or like, there's like a progress bar sometimes on the top of those things. And like in my head, that's like page 1. And then you click through to be more sports specific. So,
you can't get all those sports done now to maybe get that first page.
Right, right.
It's way the same for every athlete except for 20% of that information, right? Maybe 10% is skills. Everything else is you want to know everything else, right?
Totally. So I appreciate you sending that through. So we're in a good spot. We're making progress on it.
All right, I think that sort of like brings us to a conclusion here for the day. I think we each have our tasks. John and Bill, I want to circle back with you to start nailing down this video thing, maybe Tuesday or Thursday or something like that, and try to work that.
Tuesday's better for me.
Sorry, Tuesday?
Tuesday is better for me. Thursday's not that good for me.
All right, yeah, Tuesday's sort of open for me. Wednesday I'm booked. But yeah, Tuesday or Thursday would be good for us to work that out.
I'm no good on Thursday at all, but Tuesday or Wednesday is fine.
All right, John, I will not be able to be at the developers meeting on Wednesday. I have a personal thing that I need to be at all day. So I don't know if we want to reschedule that for Thursday or what we want to do on that, but let's talk about that later on today. All right, that's it for me.
Would that also be for Kelly, the call with Kelly and I too? Would that be the same schedule?
Oh, yeah. Let's move it then.
Yeah, let's move that because Wednesday is booked personally for me.
I'm good Thursday at noon if you wanted to try and do Thursday at noon.
Thursday noon works for me.
Greg, I'm going to try to move the meeting with Ajish and his team to Thursday because our next step was to really finalize those 2 trainer specs based on the feedback we gave them on the trainer application process.
Yeah.
So I think you need to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I'm going to try to move that to Thursday.
Yeah. I just found out about it this morning. I'm going to be out of pocket on Wednesday, so sorry for the late notice on that. All right, so that's it for me. I think we're awesome right now. This is fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and
Take care, guys.
we're moving, man. This is really exciting.
Have a good day, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.